Full story. I found a USB drive with a politician's sex scandal. Leaking it changed everything. It was one of those evenings where the city felt unusually alive. Cars honked in frustration, neon signs flickered against the damp pavement, and the warm chatter from the cafe spilled out every time the door opened. I had stopped by my usual corner cafe, the one near my office, just to grab a coffee before heading home. It was late autumn, and the streets were littered with crumpled flyers from the recent political rallies. Everywhere I looked, posters of Senator Richard Hale were plastered on walls, his perfectly combed hair and bright white smile staring down like some kind of celebrity. I wasn't thinking about politics. I never do. My life is far from interesting, just a regular guy stuck in a desk job that barely pays the bills. I had moved to this city 6 months ago, chasing some vague idea of starting fresh. In reality, the new start was the same as the old one: emails, deadlines, and counting the minutes until I could go home. But that night, something small, something stupid, shifted everything. I was stepping out of the cafe, coffee in hand, when I almost kicked it. A little black USB drive, scuffed and half buried in the dirt by the sidewalk. At first, I didn't think twice. People lose USB drives all the time: students, office workers, anyone. I was about to nudge it aside with my shoe, leave it there for someone else to deal with. Who even uses these things anymore? Cloud storage has taken over. But then I thought, what if it's important? Someone's family photos, wedding videos, maybe even work files they desperately need. I imagined some poor guy tearing apart his apartment looking for this tiny piece of plastic. I bent down, picked it up, and wiped the dirt off with my sleeve. It was one of those generic 32 gigabytes drives, nothing unique about it. No label, no keychain, just a small red sticker on the side that looked worn and faded. For a second, I almost tossed it into the trash bin next to the cafe door. It would have been easier, but something made me pocket it instead. Maybe curiosity, maybe boredom. By the time I got home, I had almost forgotten about it. My apartment was as dull as ever: one bedroom, cracked paint on the walls, and the hum of a fridge that was older than me. I threw my keys on the table and collapsed on the couch, scrolling mindlessly through my phone. That's when I felt the USB in my pocket again. I stared at it for a long minute. Something about it felt off. I don't know why. Maybe it was just the fact that it had been lying there, right outside the cafe, like someone had dropped it in a hurry. My first thought was, don't plug it into your main laptop. I've seen enough cybercrime documentaries to know that random USBs can be riddled with malware. So I dug out my old, half-broken laptop, the one I hadn't used in years. It wheezed like a dying animal when I turned it on, but it still worked enough for something like this. Before plugging it in, I examined the drive again, almost like I was expecting a name to appear on it magically. Nothing, just that little red sticker. I even thought about writing a post online. Found a USB drive? Anyone missing it? But how do you even describe something so generic? Finally, I plugged it in. When I plugged in the USB drive, I expected chaos. You know how they say never to connect random drives to your computer because they might be riddled with malware? I was half expecting the screen to flicker, some virus to start hijacking my files. But nothing happened. The drive opened like any other. A plain, ordinary window with 3 folders: work, photos, and drafts. For a second, I laughed to myself. This was it? I was imagining all kinds of wild scenarios while walking home, and now I felt like an idiot. The USB was probably just some college kid's lost assignment or maybe a collection of family photos. Still, I was curious. Curiosity is a dangerous thing. It doesn't let you walk away once it hooks you. So I clicked on work first. The folder was packed with files all neatly named budget_2022, project_proposal, meeting_notes, and dozens more. I opened one. It was a PDF filled with boring details about road maintenance schedules, government funding, and contract bids. I opened another. Spreadsheets filled with numbers I didn't understand. At first glance, nothing about this screamed important. I figured maybe it belonged to someone who worked at City Hall or a private company handling public projects. But as I scrolled through the files, I noticed something strange. Some of the documents mentioned names of local political figures. Not just their names, but notes about meetings, funding allocations, even internal comments that didn't seem like the kind of thing you'd find in public reports. That's when my stomach gave a little jolt. I minimized the work folder and clicked on photos. This is where everything changed. The first few images were boring. Street corners, cafes, parking lot. Some were so blurry they looked accidental, like someone's camera had gone off by mistake. But as I kept clicking, my heart stopped. One of the photos was crystal clear. Senator Richard Hale. I recognized him instantly. He was the face of our city's upcoming elections. His posters were everywhere. Smiling, shaking hands, looking like the perfect family man. I had seen him on TV just the night before, talking about his campaign promises. And now, here he was in a low-quality photo standing outside a hotel, looking over his shoulder as if he didn't want to be seen. I clicked to the next photo. Another shot of him, this time talking to a young woman. Her face was turned away, but the way he leaned close to her, it didn't look like a casual conversation. The more I scrolled, the worse it got. A series of images showed him entering the hotel with the same woman. Later, there were pictures of him leaving hours later, looking tired, almost nervous. These weren't the kind of photos you'd find on the internet or in a newspaper. They were taken by someone hiding in the shadows, someone following him. I felt my hands trembling on the mouse. What is this? I thought. Why do I have this? The feeling that this USB wasn't lost, but deliberately discarded started creeping in. Then I noticed something else. A third folder named Drafts. It looked harmless, just a collection of text documents. I opened the first one, and it was nothing but half-written speeches, campaign slogans, and personal notes. But at the very bottom of the list, there was a single file with the name Private. I clicked it. Password prompt popped up. I stared at the screen, frozen. A normal person would stop here, right? But the adrenaline, the curiosity, it was too much. I had to know what was inside. I tried the most obvious things. Password 12345. But no luck. Then I thought about the photos, the senator. What if this drive was his? I quickly Googled his birth date, typed it in, and the folder unlocked. Inside were videos and photos that made my stomach twist. Not just casual, off-guard shots, these were intimate photos. Explicit ones. Videos recorded in dimly lit hotel rooms, showing the senator with women who were definitely not his wife. I slammed the laptop shut for a second, my heart pounding. This wasn't just gossip. This was the kind of evidence that could destroy someone's career. But there was something else that scared me more. If someone had gone through this much trouble to collect this kind of blackmail, then losing this USB wasn't an accident. Someone had meant for this to end up somewhere. Maybe not with me, but somewhere. When the private folder opened, my screen filled with a list of files. Dozens of them, each labeled with strange codes, dates, and timestamps. My fingers hovered over the mouse, frozen. My gut told me I shouldn't look. Every instinct said, stop now. Close it. Forget you saw this. But I didn't. The first video file was titled Hotel_09-12 I clicked it, and for a moment my laptop screen went black. Then, grainy footage appeared, shot from a corner of a dimly lit hotel room. There he was, Senator Richard Hale. No campaign suit, no polished smile. Just a man in his 50s, vulnerable and exposed, sitting on the edge of the bed with his shirt unbuttoned. He wasn't alone. A young woman, maybe in her 20s, was laughing nervously as she poured champagne into 2 glasses. The way she glanced at the camera made me realize something chilling. This was filmed without their consent. I felt my breath catch. My finger hovered over the spacebar, ready to pause, but I couldn't. It was like watching a car crash. Horrific, but impossible to look away. The video continued, becoming increasingly explicit. It was enough to destroy his entire career, his marriage, his life. And this was just one video. There were dozens of them. I clicked on another file, Hotel_03-Record 24. This wasn't just scandalous. It was criminal. The footage showed the senator sitting across a table from a man I recognized vaguely, a contractor who had been in the news for shady construction deals. They weren't aware of the camera hidden somewhere in the room. On the table were envelopes stuffed with cash. The conversation was muted, but the gestures were clear. Handshakes, nods, and cash sliding across the table. I felt sick. Then I noticed a PDF document named Receipts. My curiosity took over. The file contained scanned images of invoices, payments, bank statements, proof of bribes, and illegal fund transfers. Names of companies I'd heard of, some I hadn't. Notes scribbled in the margins about deals being fixed for campaign funding. This wasn't just a scandal. This was political suicide if it got out. Panic creeps in. Suddenly, I heard something. A faint sound outside my apartment window. My entire body stiffened. It was just past midnight, and my street was always dead quiet. I paused the video, my laptop screen freezing on an image of the senator's face. Slowly, I turned my head toward the sound. There it was again, the crunch of gravel, like someone walking by or maybe stopping. My heart started to pound. My first thought was irrational but relentless. Someone knows I have this drive. I got up, tiptoeing toward the window, trying not to make any noise. My curtains were drawn, but I could see a faint shadow movement on the streetlight outside. Was it just someone walking their dog? Or were they standing still? I grabbed the nearest thing I could use as a weapon, a kitchen knife, and stood there, listening, every muscle in my body tense. Then silence. A car passed down the road, its headlights flashing through my curtains. The shadow disappeared. I let out a shaky breath, my hands trembling. This is ridiculous, I told myself. No one knows. It's just a USB drive. But deep down, I wasn't sure. I went back to the laptop, but now I felt watched. Every click felt louder than it should. I opened another folder marked Conversations. Inside were audio files, labeled by dates. I clicked on one. A crackling voice recording began to play. It was the senator again, but this time he wasn't with a woman. He was on the phone, talking about deals and keeping the press quiet. His tone was cold, calculated, like someone who had been doing this for years. The deeper I went, the darker it got. By the time I leaned back in my chair, I realized my entire world had changed in the last hour. I had stumbled on something so dangerous, so explosive, that I wasn't even sure if I should keep watching. This wasn't just about curiosity anymore. This was about survival. Couldn't sleep. The USB lay on my coffee table, tiny and harmless, yet heavier than any object I'd ever touched. I stared at it like it was a live grenade, my stomach in knots. Part of me wanted to grab it, toss it into the trash chute, and forget it existed. Pretend I had just walked past it on the sidewalk outside the cafe. Pretend I hadn't seen the videos, the photos, the messages. Pretend I hadn't looked into the eyes of the man who was smiling on every billboard in the city. Now exposed in the worst way imaginable. But it was too late. I had seen everything. The videos haunted me. The politician, Senator Richard Hale, a man I'd seen on local news giving heartfelt speeches about family values and ethics, was now burned into my brain, doing things that could end his career and maybe even land him in jail. There were also files with proof of bribes, payments funneled through shady companies, people being blackmailed. It wasn't just a scandal. It was a bomb waiting to explode. I told myself I wasn't involved. I told myself I didn't have to do anything. But that voice in my head kept repeating the same thing. If you walk away now, you're just as guilty as he is. I tried to distract myself, scrolling through my phone, but every headline made me feel sick. Senator Hale celebrated as people's politician. How many of these smiling people would hate me if I revealed the truth? How many would even believe me? For hours I sat there. The walls of my tiny apartment felt like they were closing in. Every sound outside made me paranoid. Was someone looking for this USB? What if the wrong person saw me pick it up? Couldn't take it. I opened my laptop again and typed his name, Richard Hale. His face filled the screen, smiling in every photo. He was adored, untouchable, running for re-election in 3 months, and polls showed him winning easily. No one would believe some random office worker who claimed to have dirt on him. I didn't have power. I didn't have protection. All I had was this USB. And fear. I kept thinking, Who loses something like this? You don't just drop blackmail material on the sidewalk. Was this deliberate? Was someone setting me up? I shut the laptop. I unplugged my Wi-Fi. I grabbed the old laptop from my closet, the one I hadn't used in years, with no personal accounts or files on it, and transferred the videos. Then I wiped my main laptop clean, just in case. If there was spyware on that USB, I didn't want to make it easy for anyone to find me. But even after all of that, I couldn't shake the feeling I was being watched. The hours dragged by. I poured myself coffee, but it didn't help. My mind was spinning too fast. I sat there, staring at the USB, thinking about all the ways this could go wrong. What if Hale found out I had the files? What if someone came for me? Still, couldn't let it go. I downloaded a VPN, then another one. I chained them together like I was some hacker in a movie. I set up a new email address. Something so random it didn't even look like a real name. I started searching how to leak files anonymously, how to expose scandals safely, how to avoid being traced. Each search made me more nervous. By the time I looked at the clock, it was 3:30 in the morning. I still hadn't slept. I felt sick, like I was carrying a secret that could destroy me if I made one wrong move. If I said nothing, Hale would win again. He'd stand there smiling, pretending to be the perfect leader while everything I saw on that USB stayed hidden. But if I leaked this, I'd be stepping into a storm I wasn't sure I could survive. I must have spent the entire night pacing around my tiny apartment, going over the same thoughts again and again. Should I destroy the USB? Pretend I never saw anything? Or should I do something? The weight of what I'd seen in those videos pressed down on me like a physical burden. It wasn't just the sex scandals, the bribery, the payoffs, the manipulation, it was everything. I knew that if this came out, it wouldn't just ruin one man's career, could shake the entire city. But who was I to decide? I wasn't some whistleblower or a hero. I was just a regular guy who happened to find a dirty little secret lying on the sidewalk. Yet, the more I thought about it, the more I felt sick to my stomach. What if this man got reelected? What if he kept fooling everyone while living this double life? The fear was overwhelming, but I knew what I had to do. I couldn't go to the police, not when I didn't even know who might be protecting him. I couldn't trust anyone. So, I spent hours reading guides on how to stay anonymous online. I downloaded privacy tools, installed a VPN, created a burner email account that I didn't connect to any of my real information. I even borrowed an old laptop from my cousin. Something untraceable to me. The entire time, I felt like someone was watching me, like there were eyes on me from the shadows. My paranoia was eating me alive, but I kept pushing forward. I decided to send the files to a journalist I'd been following online for years. A guy known for exposing corruption. Someone who never bowed down to politicians. I found an encrypted Dropbox link he'd posted for tips, and I spent hours double-checking every step, making sure nothing could lead back to me. When I finally hit upload, my hands were shaking so badly that I had to step back from the screen. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. For a moment, I sat there staring at the progress bar, terrified that I just signed my own death warrant. Once the files were sent, I wiped everything. I deleted all browser history, cleared caches, and factory reset the laptop 3 times. Then, I wrapped the USB in layers of tape, put it inside a small metal tin, and dumped it in a public trash bin blocks away from my apartment. I didn't want it anywhere near me, but the fear didn't go away. If anything, it got worse. A few days later, I noticed a black SUV parked across the street from my building. At first, I thought I was being paranoid, but the same car was there again the next night. And the night after that. I started getting strange calls, just static or silence on the other end. The first time, I told myself it was a wrong number. By the 5th call, my hands were trembling every time my phone buzzed. Was it the politician? His people? Did they know? I couldn't tell if I was losing my mind or if someone was actually onto me. Every sound at night, every creak of the floorboards, every knock on the wall, felt like a threat. I started checking the locks on my door 3, for times before I went to sleep. Sometimes I barely slept at all. And the worst part? I couldn't tell anyone. How could I? What would I even say? Hey, I found a USB with enough dirt on a powerful man to destroy him, and now I think people might be watching me? They'd think I was crazy, so I kept it to myself. Every day, I checked the news, waiting for the story to break, waiting for the world to change because of what I'd done. But all I felt was fear. Every click of my doorknob, every car slowing down near my building, it all felt like a warning. We know. 3 days after I sent the files, it happened. I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing nonstop. At first, I thought something had gone wrong at work, but when I opened my messages, my jaw dropped. Every news alert, every trending topic on social media, every single post was about one thing, the scandal. Breaking news. Senator William Carson caught in explosive sex and bribery scandal. The headlines were everywhere. I rubbed my eyes, convinced I was dreaming. But no, the videos I'd seen on that USB were now plastered all over the internet. Clips of him in hotel rooms with people who weren't his wife. Snippets of shady conversations about contracts, bribes, and deals. Screenshots of emails and receipts. Every ugly detail I'd discovered on that drive was now public knowledge. The news anchors couldn't keep up with the flood of information. Every channel was dissecting the footage, analyzing the timestamps, cross-referencing the evidence. Is this real? One anchor asked. Could this be an elaborate hoax? Online, people were split. Some were convinced it was a smear campaign from a rival political party. Others were digging deeper, connecting the dots and confirming the authenticity of every file. Hashtags calling for Carson's resignation started trending within hours. By noon, there were already small protests forming outside government offices. I just sat there, staring at the screen. My chest tightened as I realized, I did this. I was the one who pulled the trigger on this man's career. But the relief I expected didn't come. Instead, a creeping terror washed over me. What if they traced the leak back to me? I had been careful. I used a burner email, I scrubbed everything clean. But what if that wasn't enough? These people had power, money, connections. The kind of people who could make someone like me disappear without leaving a trace. I turned on the TV and there he was, the politician himself, holding a press conference. His face was pale, his voice trembling as he called the leaks fabricated lies, and vowed to hunt down the criminals who orchestrated this attack. His tone made my skin crawl. He wasn't just angry, he was vengeful. I closed the blinds, convinced someone could see me watching. That night, the city felt different. I heard car horns, sirens, and crowds chanting in the distance. I checked social media compulsively, watching videos of protests, reading thousands of comments debating every second of the leaked footage. Some people praised the anonymous whistleblower. Whoever exposed him is a hero, while others claimed it was illegal and immoral. Was I a hero, or had I just signed my own death sentence? The black SUV was still there, parked on my street. I couldn't tell if it was just coincidence anymore. Every time I looked outside, I felt its presence. I unplugged my laptop, turned off my phone, and sat in the dark, listening for footsteps in the hallway. When the evening news announced that Carson's re-election campaign had officially collapsed, I should have felt victorious. Instead, my stomach knotted tighter. The more people celebrated online, the more I realized just how dangerous this had become. This wasn't just a scandal, it was war. And I was the one who had fired the first shot. The scandal had exploded far beyond what I ever imagined. But instead of feeling safe behind my anonymity, I started to feel like the walls around me were closing in. The first text came late at night. I was sitting on my couch, lights off, scrolling through the latest news about the politician's downfall, when my phone buzzed with an unknown number. You know you're not safe, right? I stared at the message, my heart pounding. I wanted to believe it was a wrong number, some kind of prank. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. I hadn't told anyone about the USB drive or what I'd done with it. No one could have known. Another text followed minutes later. We know what you did. I dropped my phone. My stomach felt like ice. Was it Carson's people? Had they somehow traced the leak back to me despite all my precautions? My mind spiraled. I remembered the black SUV that had been parked on my street for days. The strange phone calls I'd been getting. I'd answer, and there'd be nothing but silence on the other end before the line went dead. I thought I was imagining things, but now I wasn't so sure. I tried calling the number back, but it was disconnected. The next morning, I changed my routine. Instead of walking to work like I always did, I took the long way around, watching my reflection in every shop window to see if anyone was following me. I started taking the stairs instead of the elevator, just in case someone was waiting for me at the usual floor. I deleted all my social media accounts, Instagram, Facebook, even LinkedIn, anything that could be used to track me. I became a ghost in my own life. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat up in bed, staring at my door like it was the only thing keeping me alive. Around 2 a.m., there was a knock. 3 slow knocks. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't move for a full minute, convinced that if I stayed quiet, whoever was there would just go away. But then there was another knock, softer this time, almost teasing. When I finally found the courage to get up, I crept toward the door and looked through the peephole. No one was there. The hallway was empty. I stayed up the rest of the night, every shadow in my apartment suddenly looking like someone standing in the corner. My mind wouldn't stop replaying that text. You know you're not safe. I realized something then. This wasn't just paranoia. Whether or not they knew it was me, I had crossed a line, and people like Carson didn't go down quietly. For the first time, I regretted everything. The scandal destroyed Carson overnight. Within weeks, his political empire crumbled. The videos I leaked were everywhere, on news channels, plastered across social media, dissected on every podcast and talk show. Protesters filled the streets, chanting his name like it was a curse. He lost the election in a landslide, his sponsors abandoned him, and soon after, investigators started digging into his finances and deals. People called the anonymous whistleblower a hero. They celebrated the mystery figure who'd exposed a corrupt politician. But while the world cheered, I sat in the shadows, terrified. No one knew it was me, at least I think they didn't. I had erased every trace, burned every bridge between myself and that USB drive. But paranoia doesn't care about logic. Every time I saw a black car slow down near my building, every time I got an unknown call, my chest tightened like a fist was squeezing my heart. I think they found me. It's over. Months turned into years. Carson vanished from the public eye, his career obliterated. Sometimes I wondered what happened to him, if he ever thought about finding the person who ruined him. Did he suspect someone like me, a random nobody, was the reason his empire fell apart? I never told anyone what I did. Not a single soul. I buried it deep, like it never happened. But late at night, when I lie in bed, I still think about that USB drive. I still remember the way my hands shook when I hit send on those files. And here's the truth no one tells you. Even when you believe you're doing the right thing, it doesn't always feel good. Sometimes I wonder if I ruined my own life in the process. I can't walk through my city without feeling like I'm being watched. I can't trust strangers anymore. Even relationships feel impossible. How do you explain something like this to someone? Did I do the right thing? Probably. The people deserved to know who Carson really was. But some nights, I wish I'd never picked up that USB. Some nights, I wish I had just left it on the street where I found it. And now, as I write this, I'm old. My hands tremble as I type these words. I've carried this secret for decades, and the weight of it has never truly gone away. I thought, maybe before I die, I tell someone. Maybe not my name. Maybe not every detail. But at least the truth. So here it is, the story of a USB drive that changed everything. I'm leaving this here on Reddit because, at this point, I have nothing left to lose. If you're reading this, know one thing. Sometimes, picking up something as small as a forgotten USB can alter the course of your life in ways you'll never see coming.